Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Surabhyai Namaha Om Surabhyai Namaha Om Surabhyai Namaha Mukham karoti vasalam pangum langayate girim Yat kripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam Yat kripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavatam class. Reading from Canto number 4, chapter 20. Entitled Lord Vishnu's appearance in the sacrificial arena. So yesterday we read 2 verses, so we are now at text 22. Atha avamrijya ashru kalaha vilokayan atripta drig gocharam aha purusham pada sprishantam kshitim amsa unate vinyasta hastagram uranga vidvishaha. Atavam brijasru kalavilokayan atripta drig gocharam aha purusham padas prishantam kshitim amsa unnate vinyasta hastagram muranga vidvishaha. Atha, thereupon, avamrijya, wiping, asru kalaha, the tears in his eyes, vilokayan, observing, atripta, not satisfied, dirik gocharam, visible to his naked eyes. Aha, he said, Purusham, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pada, with his lotus feet. Sprishantam, just touching. Kshitim, the ground. Amse, on the shoulder. Unnate, raised. Vinyasta, rested. Hasta, of his hand. Agram, the front part. Urangavid Vishaha, of Garuda, the enemy of the snakes. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The Supreme Personality of Godhead stood with His lotus feet almost touching the ground, while He rested the front of His hand on the raised shoulder of Garuda, the enemy of the snakes. Maharaj Prithu, wiping the tears from his eyes, tried to look upon the Lord, but it appeared that the king was not fully satisfied by looking at him. Thus the king offered the following prayers. Kindly repeat after me. The Supreme Personality of Godhead,
the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
stood with His lotus feet, almost touching the ground, while He rested the front of His hand on the raised shoulder of Garuda, the enemy of the snakes. Maharaj Prithu, wiping the tears from his eyes, tried to look upon the Lord, but it appeared that the king was not fully satisfied by looking at him. Thus the king offered the following prayers. Purport. The significant point in this verse is that the Lord was standing above the ground. Hare Krishna. Almost touching it. The residents of the upper planetary systems, beginning from Brahmaloka, the planet where Lord Brahma lives, down to Svargaloka, the heavenly planet of Indra, are so advanced in spiritual life that when they come to visit this or similar other lower planetary systems, they keep their weightlessness. This means that they can stand without touching the ground. Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but because He lives in one of the planetary systems within this universe, He sometimes plays as if one of the demigods of this universe. When He first appeared before Prithu Maharaj, He was not touching the ground of this earth. But when He was fully satisfied with the behavior and character of Maharaj Prithu, He immediately acted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, from Vaikuntha. Out of affection for Prithu Maharaj, He touched the earth, but He rested the front of His hand on the raised shoulder of Garuda, His carrier, as if as if to prevent himself from falling down, since the Lord is not accustomed to stand on earthly ground. These are all symptoms of his great affection for Prithu Maharaj. Perceiving his fortunate position, Prithu Maharaj could not fully look upon the Lord due to ecstasy, but still, in a faltering voice, he began to offer prayers. Translation again. The Supreme Personality of Godhead stood with his lotus feet almost touching the ground, while he rested the front of his hand on the raised shoulder of Garuda, the enemy of the snakes. Maharaj Prithu, wiping the tears from his eyes, tried to look upon the Lord, but it appeared that the king was not fully satisfied by looking at him. Thus the king offered the following prayers. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing this particular point, that those who are in residing in higher planetary systems, and of course, what to speak of those who are residing in Vaikuntha, when they happen to descend or come to this earthly planet, they don't touch the ground. Actually, there's anecdotes of devotees who, when they first saw Srila Prabhupada, had that impression that Prabhupada was, while walking, was floating. Of course, demigods and the Supreme Lord himself, even I think it mentions how Krishna's own chariot also doesn't touch the ground. And in that context, actually, Prabhupada explains also that because Krishna, when he performs his different pastimes in the material world, his pastimes are inconceivable to us because he's not an ordinary human being. He's not grounded as we are. His body is completely different. His body is totally transcendental, and therefore he can do things that are absolutely inconceivable to us. He can actually contradict the laws of nature because he's not subjected to the laws of nature. Ordinary human beings, we are totally controlled. So in the context of lifting Govardhan Hill, Prabhupada explains, Lord Krishna, he just performed an activity that was totally impossible for ordinary human being, means he countered the law of gravity, something that ordinary people cannot do. It's very interesting how Prabhupada describes also in the purport how the Lord is not accustomed to walking on the ground. And Prabhupada explains that's why he had to lean on Garuda. Of course, the point here being that out of affection for his surrendered devotee, Prithu Maharaj, the Lord, in one sense, actually when the Lord descends in the material world, he comes down to our level. Although his consciousness and his body, also his whole existence, is totally different from ours, but he enacts the role of an ordinary human being, and therefore in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains, Abhajananti mam mudha manushim tanam asritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheswaram. Less intelligent people, fools, Prabhupada calls them, assume that I have taken, falsely think that I have taken on an ordinary human body. Param bhavam ajananto. They don't know, they don't understand my actual transcendental position. So that is of course, eternally the position and the identity of the Supreme Lord, and therefore our dealings and our exchange with him are not meant to be ordinary. That was Arjuna's realization, actually, as he explains in the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna, on the request of Arjuna, displays his universal form, then Arjuna realizes how, it's unimaginable when we read the description of the universal form in the Bhagavad Gita. We come to understand how powerful and how great is the Lord. And when offering prayers at that time, Arjuna is asking forgiveness to Krishna. Please excuse me for having acted or interacted with you as an ordinary, person. Of course, this is a little bit of the dilemma that simultaneously we must always keep in mind the unique position of the Supreme Lord, and for that matter also the unique position of anyone who's engaged in activities of devotional service. That's why dealings amongst devotees we must be cautious how we exchange in our dealings with other devotees. At the same time, the dilemma is such that the Lord, this is especially exemplified in the pastimes of Krishna and Vrindavan, he is very pleased when devotees treat him in a more simple and natural way. Of course, that is only possible for those who are completely purified in consciousness. And for example, how the residents of Vrindavan, their mood of worshipping the Lord, their mentality in dealing with Krishna is something that that cannot be imitated, and therefore Prabhupada would explain that in our temples we are trained to deal with Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and not just falsely imitate how the residents of Vrindavan exchange with Krishna, which is very different, and which is acceptable for them, because they are totally on a different transcendental platform. Residents of Vrindavan, and for that matter, the pure devotees of the Lord, they are on a level of consciousness which is totally different, and therefore they can exchange with the Lord in a different way. So here it mentions also how Prithu Maharaj, because he is situated on this very exalted platform of pure devotional service, obviously coming in contact directly, having the direct darshan of the Supreme Lord, here it mentions that he could not because of tears in his eyes, he could not see the Lord properly, and he was not satisfied just by looking at the Lord. And in the verses to come, he will be offering various prayers. That is one of the devotional activities, as we know. Bandhanam, Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Bandhanam, offering prayers. Offering prayers, of course, every day we offer various prayers. But that is one of the features which, of course, we read. There are many wonderful examples of those devotees who are having darshan of the Lord or interacting with the Lord. They spontaneously, out of their natural affection and devotion to the Lord, are able to offer wonderful prayers. Of course, all of that is only possible by the mercy of the Lord, but that is one of the devotional activities, which is also very, very pleasing to the Lord. It is beneficial, especially, of course, for those who are offering prayers, and also very satisfying that one can nicely, properly glorify the Lord. And it is also very pleasing. Krishna becomes very happy, pleased to see. In other words, these are natural symptoms these are natural symptoms that indicate the nature of one's mentality. When one, the more we understand the position of the Lord, or the more we understand the position of His devotees, just like lately I've been hearing descriptions, or what we call memories, of devotees. It's very wonderful to be hearing devotees glorify or describe Srila Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada was that very rare personality. It's just like in this sacrificial arena, the Lord Himself appeared, which is extremely rare. In a similar way, a personality like Srila Prabhupada, a pure devotee of the Lord, is also very rare to have his association, or even to have his darshan. And therefore, devotees are, so many devotees who had that very rare and great fortune of interacting, of having darshan of Srila Prabhupada, of interacting with him. They have so many nice memories, and are very nicely able to glorify that personality of Srila Prabhupada. So we will read in the next few days. There are many, all of these great personalities are very exemplary in how they very wonderfully are able to glorify. Just like the section describing the prayers of Queen Kunti. All of these great personalities who had interaction with the Lord were able to offer such wonderful prayers. And generally, when such personalities offer prayers, it is often quite extensive, and go on for quite some time. Anyways, we can begin by the first prayer that is being offered here by Prithu Maharaj, which is, Pritur Uvacha Varan Vibhotvad Varadeshvarad Buddha Katham Vrinite Guna Vikriyat Manam Yena Rakhanam Api Santi Dehinam Tanisha Kaivalya Pate Vrine Nacham. So this is Prithu Maharaj. My dear Lord, you are the best of the demigods who can offer benedictions. Why therefore should any learned person ask you for benedictions meant for living entities bewildered by the modes of nature? Such benedictions are available automatically, even in the lives of the living entities suffering in hellish conditions. My dear Lord, you can certainly bestow merging into your existence, but I do not wish to have such a benediction. So in the purport, Prabhupada explains, there are different kinds of benedictions according to a person's demands. For karmis, the best benediction is promotion to the higher planetary systems, where the duration of life is very long and the standard of living and happiness is very high. There are others, namely Gyanis and Yogis, who want the benediction of merging into the existence of the Lord. This is called Kaivalya. The Lord is therefore addressed as Kaivalya Pati, the master or Lord of the benediction known as Kaivalya. But devotees receive a different type of benediction from the Lord. Devotees are anxious neither for the heavenly planets nor for merging into the existence of the Lord. According to devotees, Kaivalya, or merging into the existence of the Lord, is considered as good as hell. The word Naraka means hell. Similarly, everyone who exists in this material world is called Naraka, because this material existence itself is known as a hellish condition of life. Prithu Maharaj, however, expressed that he was interested neither in the benediction desired by the karmis nor that desired by the Gyanis and Yogis. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Prabhu, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, described that Kaivalya is no better than a hellish condition of life, and as for the delights of the heavenly planets, they are factually will of the wisps, or phantasmagoria. They are not wanted by devotees. Devotees do not even care for the positions held by Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, nor does a devotee desire to become equal with Lord Vishnu. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Prithu Maharaj made his position very clear. So there will be more prayers expressed by Prithu Maharaj. Any comment? Jai Prithu Maharaj ki, Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.